I'd like you to imagine your dream life. See the version of you who has what you want to have, feels how you want to feel, and is who you want to be. I'm Brittany Hoops, your hypnotherapist and manifestation coach, and this is the show where I'll teach you to master the full power of your mind, to guide you on your journey towards destination manifestation.
Take a step back for the ones who can't do that.
Hello there, travelers, and welcome back to another episode of the Destination Manifestation Podcast. You know, the other day I was kind of reflecting on the past 17 years, which seems really crazy to say. I've spent 17 years now, almost 18, studying manifestation. And I was thinking, man, what would I do to go back to little 18-year-old Brittany who decided to pick up a copy of The Secret simply because Saturday Night Live was making fun of how much Oprah loved the book, and that intrigued me? What would I do to be able to go back to my freshroom room dorm at NYU and experience that moment again, to feel my mind literally being blown by these manifestation concepts, to be back in that moment where I realized that everything just sort of clicked for me, where I realized that this was what I had intuitively been doing like my whole life up until this point. But now there were ideas, there were concepts, there were, words that described how to do that deliberately. And I can still picture, sitting on my dorm room bed. I had this colorful anthropology bedspread that tufts of little, stuffing was coming out of it because it was all so old. And I spent a lot of time alone in that dorm room because I wasn't much of a partier, and I was busy with theater and everything I was doing at school. And my roommate had met this guy during welcome week, and she basically lived with him the whole time. So I had that room alone to myself a lot, and I did so much reading, so much discovery, and it was such a transformative time. And it was the time that I learned the importance of your mind for aligning with your potential. I mean, before that, I just kind of, I was like a high achiever, right? I was on the student council and the lead in the school plays. And, I had a very, I had lots of goals, and I was kind of stuck in this hustle and grind mentality that was the name of the game, and that was kind of the only option. That's all I knew as, a high schooler. And I had all these big dreams for the future. And I thought that reaching them purely came down to two things, a mixture of luck and hard work. And yet, when I discovered what it meant to have a manifestation mindset, I realized that there was even more at play. And that more at play was exciting, and it made sense. It tapped into the spiritual components that I knew to be true. And, it was just beautiful of that discovery process of adopting a manifestation mindset, that by adopting that manifestation mindset, that's how I could transform my life. And whoa, transform my life it did. Lord Almighty, I couldn't even begin to recap from that moment, 18 years old, freshman in college, all the miraculous things that have manifested over the past 17 years, nearly double that time. It literally makes me want to tear up because if I were to think of some of the highlights, I guess it would include meeting my soulmate, getting married, he's now my husband, moving to Los Angeles. I lived in New York. I moved to Los Angeles, where I'd always wanted to live. Bringing in a multiple six-figure salary, manifesting, eventually building my dream home here in the Texas Hill Country, manifesting our wedding that overlooked the ocean in Malibu. It was the most picturesque, wedding ever, manifesting our dream honeymoon in an overwater bungalow in Bora Bora, or I should say Bora Bora. Um, I mean, what else? Like, it's insane. I remember manifesting, a free week-long trip to Mexico completely out of the blue. I've manifested multiple 5 and 6-figure windfalls completely out of the blue. I manifested my dream to be a house guest on my favorite TV show, Big Brother, for a season. I manifested growing my own business and starting, my own mindset consultancy. I went full-time in my business within 6 months of launching. I manifested paying off over $200,000 worth of student loan debt before we turned 30. And most recently, I would say my biggest manifestation in my life to date has been manifesting getting pregnant with our little girl. I am 29 weeks pregnant as of the recording of this episode. And, it's insane because being pregnant is like this beautiful moment between transition periods. It's like part of her is physical. And I mean, this is true of all of us, right? We all have a physical aspect to us and a non-physical aspect, but you feel it more when you're growing a baby because it's like, I'm not holding her yet. And yet she's in my body. And the only like real visceral physical sensation I have of that is when I feel her kick. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's translating her spirit into her physical nature. And I get to be a part of that. And each little kick and each little jab just fills me with so much gratitude for the blessing it is to manifest this tiny human into our lives. And wow, like that's manifestation. It's the most fun game you could potentially ever play in your life. And I would say all of those things just like are tiny, just begin to scratch the surface of all the manifestations I've experienced over the past 17 years. You can literally transform your life by adopting a manifestation mindset. And I've been so lucky to get to experience nearly half my life without it and then half my life with it. And I can tell you, I picked that one again and again and again. So I want to take some time here today to really define that, to really get deep into that, to think through the top components or the top tenets of what it means to have a manifestation mindset. As I look in the second half of my life versus the first half of my life, what shifted? What changed? What does it mean to adopt a manifestation mindset? Like, if a manifestation mindset were a cake, what are the key ingredients here? What's the egg, sugar, and flour? Because there's so much that goes into it. And of course, we can always get into the nitty gritty. We so often do here on this show. But I really don't want to lose sight of kind of those most important elements because those are the key elements. Those are the cornerstones that are required to transform your life. So let's jump into those, shall we? Now, when I think of this, first of all, having a manifestation mindset means that you're open to believing in possibility. That you're open and accepting and willing to any and all potentialities. Like you love the unknown. And that can be really tough sometimes, It often feels unfamiliar. It can feel really vulnerable, like being open, receptive, receiving, allowing, surrendered, feel into those words. Like, ugh. To me, they feel yummy, but they can feel scary to some people. It's a very different energy than like fearful and guarded and anxious or feeling like you need to protect yourself somehow, right? It's like, I want you to take off the armor rather than suit up, right? And so many of us, and it might make a lot of sense why, but so many of us walk around feeling so threatened. And, I think this day and age, you go on to Instagram, you go on to TikTok, Facebook, Reddit, like any sort of comment section that exists on the internet, and it's just filled with people who feel threatened. And people who feel the need to defend themselves or that someone's coming after them or the way that they believe or the way that they think. And, I think especially in America right now, given our political climate, people are so on edge right now. It's easy to feel threatened. But a manifestation mindset requires the opposite energy of that. It requires a belief and a deep connection and inner knowing with your highest self, with the universe, to surrender to that divine energy, that says, I am open to receive. I'm here. I'm ready. Use me. I want to see how good this can get. I'm no longer going to assume the worst and somehow think that that's going to help me or protect me somehow, because it often doesn't. It often just trips you up. I'm no longer going to plan for all those worst case scenarios. I'm going to believe in best case possibility. I'm going to allow myself to get my hopes up. Oof, I think that's a big part. Allowing yourself to get your hopes up. Do you allow yourself to get your hopes up on your dreams? So many of my students, my clients, they keep themselves guarded, And what they'll say is like, oh, Brittany, I'm just being realistic. Notice how I put that in quotes, because you get to decide what you create. If you think that if that's what you're focused on, then that's what you're going to create. That's what's realistic. We all get to define what's realistic, but they think, keeping themselves guarded is being realistic, because they think that if they allow themselves to believe in their dreams, if they do open themselves up to possibility, and if for some reason the universe decides to deliver their manifestation in a different package than they were expecting, or with different timing than they were expecting, well, then they will be disappointed. And so they want to shield themselves from disappointment at literally all costs. The worst case scenario ends up simply being a feeling. Like, how much have you guarded yourself? Have you kept yourself from the good that could exist for you because you were trying to outrun a feeling, an emotion, not even a big boogie monster out there in the world? No, just a feeling, just a sensation in the body. We do so much to try to outrun feelings. And, I find that some of these people will do anything. They'll give up anything in order to avoid that feeling. They rather give up their belief. And when you give up your belief, that's to give up on your dreams in order to shield themselves from disappointment. I don't know about you, but holding myself apart from my dreams, I think that is a hell of a lot more disappointing than opening myself up to possibility. And then, being surprised by how that may come about. People who adopt a manifestation mindset are no longer scared of their feelings. They are, throw it at me. I can feel it all. I- Grief, depression, whatever it is, come at me, right? Feelings, I can handle it, because they know that they can handle any feeling that comes their way, even a feeling of temporary disappointment. And notice how I said temporary, because that's what makes it possible to handle any and all feelings. All feelings, all emotions are just vibrations in the body. They're just temporary sensations. I mean, God, I even think back to the 2 years I felt depressed. It wasn't 2 years constantly. And 2 years is temporary too. I'm 35 years old. 2 is a drop in the bucket compared to 35, right? So all feelings are temporary. And someone who has a manifestation mindset knows that they're watching the story of their life unfold in real time. So even if, I'll give this to you, even if your manifestation was to come about differently than what you expected, you can now realize that it's just a twist, it's just a turn in your story, and therefore it's making it a whole lot more interesting. You would want that, as opposed to everything just coming in exactly as you imagine. And it's like, well, okay, well, that was predictable. That was boring. People who adopt a manifestation mindset realize that it's not over until it's over. Okay. And if it ever is over, well, I can tell you this, it's not going to matter all that much to you. if it's over. I've heard good things about that. I've heard that it's a miraculous experience where you get to recap your whole life and meet your spirit guides. And it's like this beautiful thing. You're not going to be caring about that last goal that you had here on earth, right? So it's kind of a win-win. People who adopt a manifestation mindset, they trust and they understand the power of the universe. They don't assume that they have it all figured out. I mean, I kind of think of it this way. Think of it like your favorite TV show, okay? I am sure there is some element of that show that completely caught you off guard. And that's what made it so good. Whether it was like really funny jokes, and one-liners you didn't expect, or maybe it's like plot twists and turns. Like I will say personally, my barometer for what determines and like makes like a really like top show for me is that it's got to be a show that will make me or my husband like pick up the remote, pause it, look at each other, like our mouths like open in shock. Like that's how we know, like, oh my gosh, this show is so good. Like I can't believe what happened. Shows like Breaking Bad, shows like Severance, like those are two of my favorite shows. Like they're the shows that make you just go, oh, I didn't even see that coming. The twists and the turns were what made those shows so exciting. And that is the same with your manifestations. I know you think you want it to just be this predictable thing and you want it to just run like clockwork and you want it to just be there the moment you think of it and it's just like boom, boom, boom. But you would get so bored. I'm telling you, it would be the most predictable thing ever and it would be quite boring. So, for example, here I am, finally pregnant with my daughter after 4 years of trying to conceive. The universe delivered, okay? And I will soon be delivering as well in less than 10 weeks. Oh my God. But the universe also delivered, right? And it did not look the way that I had planned. It certainly did not come in the timing that I had planned. But I continued, and I'm so proud of myself. And I know that this is because I had cultivated a manifestation mindset. I continued to remain open to potentiality. I mean, I would tell you right now, I would still be here sitting here trying to manifest her if I thought that I needed to guard my heart from disappointment first. Because, you know, I understand that just didn't serve a place here. I certainly understood that disappointment was part of this experience. If I had to guard my heart from disappointment first before I'd allow myself to believe, it would have never manifested. And trust me, 3 miscarriages will make guardedness really seem like an appealing option. Okay? I will tell you, it took some mental gymnastics after that 3rd miscarriage to say, I'm still going to remain open. You sometimes feel a little crazy because you're like, wow, I know how bad this can hurt. But I also know that hurt, although an element of it might always be there, you know, the severity of it and the way it ebbs and flows, that is the temporary part. And I knew I could get through that. And I knew that the only way I could get to the other side and get pregnant with my daughter is to still remain open. And it's simply not worth the guardedness. You gotta keep believing because what's the cost? The cost is the cost of your dream. I mean, tell me, are you willing to pay that? If you're willing to pay your dream, if you say, yep, here, let me give you my dream, and in exchange, I won't get disappointment. If you really rather that, then that's fine. That's your choice to make. But I'm telling you, that is a very hefty cost. I know I wasn't willing to pay that. And I'm so glad that I didn't, because keeping yourself open, even when you might be disappointed, and then getting through that shows you how strong you truly are. Okay? Manifestation is an exercise in ripping off that illusion of protection and throwing it to the wind and saying, trusting, the universe has me. I have zero to fear. I mean, it really is a trust fall into your future because it's in the field of potentiality where your dreams reside. And that's the space where you already know how it ends. And then that's kind of the mentality that you have to take with you as you watch it unfold. You have to already know how it ends. Now, you have to keep that and say, I already know how this ends. I know it ends with my manifestation. I know it ends with my dream. I may not know all the twists and turns along the way, but I know the final outcome. And that's the kind of conviction and openness you have to bring to it. And as you ground yourself in that knowing and you let go of anything and everything else that isn't a match to that, that's when you tune into that. I mean, ask yourself, how many layers of resistance do you need to release before you allow yourself to be open enough to believe? And to hold your belief center in your mind, to zero in on it, to keep coming back to it, to anchor into it, to no longer let yourself get distracted from it. That's the mental muscle you're flexing. Continually, like, boom, boom. It reminds me of like a puppy. They're just like, goes out and you're like, no, sit. And then goes out and you're like, sit. Like you just have to continually come back to your conviction, to your belief, to that dream that you want to be your reality, and really ground it in the fact that you believe it's your reality. Hold on to that for dear life and be willing to let go of everything else. Okay? Kind of reminds me of, this story that me and my family, we always joke about and laugh about so much. We took swimming lessons when me and my sister were kids. Okay? And there was this teenager, I'm sure she was a teenager, at this local pool in our neighborhood, and she taught swim lessons. And, as they say in Texas, bless her heart, she didn't know any better, okay? But she would be in the water, and we'd be on the edge of the pool. I think I was 5 years old. My sister was like 3 years old, right? And we'd be, nervous. We'd be ready to need to jump into the pool. And she was trying to teach us how to jump into the pool. And she would just be there in the water and she'd extend her arms up and she'd say, jump into the water, I'll catch you. And then me and my sister, we'd be nervous and we would go ahead and we would jump into the water and she wouldn't catch us. And here we were like flailing about. And I guess she thought that, by pseudo drowning, that's how we would learn how to swim. It wasn't a very effective, for her, it wasn't a very effective strategy for building trust or swimming skills for that matter. But I always say that the universe is a much better swim instructor than that teenager was, right? The universe says, jump off the edge of the pool. Jump from the known solid ground of your current 3D reality and jump into the water of infinite possibility. The water's fine. The water of the unknown. And the universe says, I'll catch you. But you gotta leave the known, your current known, and jump. And our entire work becomes learning how to get comfortable enough to be there on the edge, on solid ground, on the known, and saying, okay, sure, I'll jump. I trust, you know? And sometimes I see myself this way. I sort of think of myself as a role, as my role as a hypnotherapist and coach. I'm kind of like that swim instructor too. Like when I work with clients, all my work is helping them get comfortable enough and trusting enough to jump in and believe in themselves and their dreams. That's what it takes to have a manifestation mindset. And so, what does this do to your life when you finally do jump? Well, you then enter this whole new sphere. It's a whole new reality. I mean, things begin shifting for you, and sometimes they can shift quite quickly. Okay, so you have to be ready. You have to be open and willing to change. And I see a lot of people too. They think that they want to jump. They want this change, but then they're like, oh my gosh, the delta, the difference between the known, solid, hard ground of the pavement or the pavers or whatever that decking of the pool is made out of. Like the difference between that and water is night and day. I don't know if I'm ready to shift and to change. And so you have to be open and willing to change. I see a lot of people that are afraid of change. They say they want this manifestation or that they want things to be different. But when it comes to actually letting that 3D shift, they tense up. They rather stay in a bad situation that's familiar than to be open to something that's unfamiliar, but better or good. So you have to be willing to make the unfamiliar familiar to you. And lucky for us, you don't have to do this all in your waking 3D reality. You can practice. You can dip your toe in. You can ease yourself into the hot tub, sort of dip one toe in at a time, get used to the temperature, and then ease yourself on in. And how you do that is by visualizing your intended outcomes in your inner mind first. That's how you build up familiarity. That's how the brain can build familiarity in advance. So by time your 3D reality actually shifts, by time you really make that jump, you're like, oh yeah, I've been here before. I know what this feels like. Like, I'm happy it's now in my real life, but I'm not all that surprised. I'm not all that taken off guard by it. Like, I know this. I've visualized this every day for months now. I've been here. My brain is familiar with this, and therefore it feels safe for me. But you have to let yourself go there. You have to be there. And I mean, the best way to do this is you have to let yourself visit the realm of infinite possibility. And so people are like, okay, I'll visit, but like, where is that? How do you visit it? And so people will think that it's someplace out there, but it's not someplace out there. So many people, they think, okay, well, if I just move states, then I'll be happy. Or if I break up with this person, I'll be happy. Or if I leave this job, then I'll be happy. And sometimes, like, making those shifts, they can work. They can increase your happiness. But oftentimes, it means that we're looking for something outside of ourselves that doesn't exist. We're using the wrong map. We're looking for infinite possibility out there. And so we wander sort of aimlessly looking for something that that's nearly impossible for us to find. No, your destination manifestation, it lives up here in your mind. You close your eyes, you put on a hypnotherapy recording, and that's how you go there. That's where it's located. It's where you visualize. And to have a manifestation mindset, you have to really let yourself go there. So like when you do close your eyes, when you do hypnotherapy, you have to make it as real as possible for you. You have to say, okay, I'm not going to like guard myself and like, oh, if it feels too good, then it'll get my hopes up. And then when I open my eyes, I'll be disappointed. No, you're going to enjoy your time there because you can go there whenever you want. You have to feel it. You have to be there. Use all of your senses. Use your visualization, smell what it would smell like, taste what it would taste like, touch something there, feel the emotions in advance. You have to really let yourself go there, feel it and be there. Make it really real to you. And that's why it's so important to sort of rip this guardedness up and to set aside any worries about getting your hopes up because you need to let yourself go all the way. And when you do that, your brain and your body, they don't know the difference. You trick your brain. Your brain thinks it's real. And I would say your brain thinks it's real because it actually is real. You're just visiting its potentiality form before its 3D form. Both are equally as real. And so that's how you become a vibrational match to your dreams. It's this exercise that anchors your dreams into reality. You harmonize with the vibration of them. It almost kind of reminds me of like, imagine you're in a crowded airport, okay? And you go downstairs, you go down to baggage claim, and there's all these people that are sort of aimlessly walking around in every which direction, trying to get their suitcases and trying to get to the taxis. And I would see each and every one of those people in that airport represent all the potentialities that can exist for your life. Like each person in that busy airport is like a potential manifestation or dream of yours. And so that's exciting. They're all there, right? They're all arriving. They've all arrived off the plane. And so when you go into hypnotherapy, what happens, it's like you go into that crowded, busy airport of your inner mind. And it's like you are the taxi cab driver and you're holding a sign that says, my manifestation. And, say your manifestation is to write your own book, on that sign, it's going to say, write my own book, become an author. And here you are in the airport of the 5D of infinite potentiality, and you just stand there holding your little airport sign, and you trust that the person, the manifestation that you are meant to pick up, they're going to see your sign and they're going to find you. That's how it works. They know that once it lands into 3D reality, they are looking for the person that is holding that signal, holding that sign, holding that vibration. And that's going to be who they'll go home with, who they'll experience 3D reality with. That's exactly what happens. So as long as you are there standing, holding that sign, standing your ground, making it known that that is what you were here to pick up, then once your manifestation lands at the airport and arrives, it's going to go down the escalator to baggage claim, and it's going to see you standing there open, ready, willing, holding that sign, holding that vibration at the bottom of the escalator or the stairs. Yay, great. Let me throw this at you. Imagine if just like for a second, you held that sign of your desire and you were holding there and you were holding there and you held it for like 5 minutes and you look around and maybe your manifestation hasn't arrived yet. Maybe the plane was delayed because it needed to avoid a bad weather pattern. Manifestations do this sometimes, they delay themselves because they know if it happened in the timing that you originally planned, some element of it may not work or it may be detrimental to you. You may not know this at the time, but the universe knows, it knows. And so your manifestation's plane was delayed because it was safer for it to avoid that bad weather pattern and land later in your life. But here you are holding your sign. You're standing there. You hold it for 5 minutes. It's not here yet. And then you decide, it's not here. It's never coming. I'm leaving. It's never arriving. And you huff and puff and you leave that airport. And then when your manifestation plane actually does land and it does arrive and it goes down to baggage claim ready to greet you, it looks around and it's like, where's my ride? You aren't there. You didn't stick around holding your sign. You aren't there to pick it up. It's there, but you aren't there to pick it up. And so, what a shame. It has to go take someone else's cab or taxi to get to where it needs to be, simply because you stopped holding the vibration. So let yourself go there, be there, and most importantly, stay there. You have to stay there. It'd be really nice if we were able to sort of like check on the status of the plane or like text your manifestation and say like, hey, are you nearby? Like, are you close? But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. It's like you have to stay there. It's kind of like how it used to be in the 70s or 80s, like before you had phones to go check these things, right? You have to keep holding your sign. Even when it seems like the entire airport may have cleared out. Everyone else has picked up their manifestations and gotten their manifestations, and you're just the only one still standing there waiting to pick up yours. Everyone else may have picked up their manifestations and left, and yet you have to still be standing there. You need to keep standing and holding the vision, because that's when you greet what is meant for you. And that's when your life transforms. Now, another super important element of adopting a manifestation mindset is not only do you need to let and allow yourself to be there, you also have to become the version of you who's willing to go there. And this is who I lovingly call her or him manifested me, manifested you. That's the version of you who already has attained your goals. And why that's so important, and I'm sure you hear manifestation teachers talk about this all the time, but there's a becoming process in all of this. And usually, I hate to break it to you, but adversity, trauma, tragedy even, might be an element of that becoming process. as we look at what those things, a lot of people ask me like, oh my God, how would I manifest this? Like, I would never manifest this. Oh, was it my negative thinking manifested this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, like this is just part of the becoming process. And it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. It doesn't necessarily have to be. I'm not saying like every manifestation will have a tragedy that you have to go through in order to manifest it. It's not every single time, but it might. I mean, in fact, one of my favorite, there's a manifestation TikTok account that I absolutely love. It's this lovely teacher. Her name is Courtney. I'll link to her in the show notes. And I'm going to do everything that I can. Hopefully she listens to this show. I'm going to do everything that I can to have her on the show because I really think she's brilliant. She describes manifestation so brilliantly. And she talks often in her TikToks about the trauma she endured through her childhood. And she says that so many people hold themselves back because of their past trauma. They use their past trauma as a way to justify why they can't do certain things into the future, right? But she views that trauma that she endured as something that weaponized her for greatness. And, usually I'm not a huge fan of that word weaponize, but like when you think of it in the terms of that like she underwent these traumatic experiences, but they weaponized her for the future. It helped her become the version of her who could build this massive TikTok account and to become this manifestation teacher. And so that's true for all of us. There's a certain journey that your soul needs to go on before you can become the person who can hold that thing that you want to manifest. A lot of people talk about this in terms of like nervous system regulation. Like you need to become a certain version of you who has the nervous system that can handle that desire that you have. Especially if we think about like, oh, I want to be more successful, or we can go back to our book example. I want to be an author. Okay. Can you handle the 5-city, book tour that a successful book would require? Like, oh no, that feels overwhelming. Okay, well then your nervous system isn't ready to handle that manifestation. Like you got to become that person first. Okay. You have to embody the identity of the version of you who can attract those things that you want to manifest. It kind of reminds me of like a cell phone signal. Okay, your signal, who you are right now, it might be too weak to be able to hold a call. And so that call, you might get it on the line, it might be kind of choppy, and then the call drops. And so in this case, the call is your manifestation. So what needs to happen? What do you need to learn? What changes need to be made to your thinking, to your feeling, to the actions you might take, or even more so, the actions that you no longer will take, that's going to allow you to strengthen your cell signal, okay, so that you can hold that call. Oh, gosh, I've talked about it before and I'll continue to talk about it again. My biggest act of becoming was the experience of my miscarriages. And I can only say that, almost a year later. Gosh, let's see, today's end of May. In a couple weeks, the first twin miscarriage will be a year. It's insane. This year has been the biggest becoming process of any year I've had in my life. And I can see that now. And so I fully, wholeheartedly can see how going through that pain and that heartbreak, how it made me into the person who can be the mother that I want to be now. And I'll admit it, a year ago, I wasn't her. I wasn't her before, Something had to happen so that I could become her. Now, I wish the universe would have consulted me on this. I wish the universe would have, maybe offered some easier options to have learned those lessons, but the universe knew exactly what I needed. And honestly, I've talked about this in past episodes. I feel like my past lives knew the lesson that I needed to overcome with that. Something had to happen so that I could become her. I wish it could have been less sad. I wish it could have been more comfortable. But guess what? It wasn't. But it proved to me that I am willing and I am capable and I'm strong enough to do anything, and I mean anything, for my baby. I hold that conviction wholeheartedly now. I know that to be something true of myself that I didn't know a year ago because I had to become that strong person after those tragedies. I wasn't her a year ago before I miscarried my twins back in June, early June of last year. Okay, I simply wasn't her. I can see that now because I know the difference. I know how I felt a year ago and I know who I am now. And I know there is a massive difference there, but I'm her now, even though I wasn't her before. And I understand now, oh, okay, that was the missing piece. There was a certain element of resilience. There was a certain strength that could only come by overcoming a tragedy like that. And I became manifested me, mother me through that experience, through that process, which on the other side of that allowed me to manifest the pregnancy and the 29-year-old or 29-year-old. She's not 29 years old yet. She's 29 weeks gestation baby that I'm pregnant with right now. So I say all this because the becoming process is sacred. Like it really truly is. It can be hard. It can be difficult. But when you get on the other side of it, whew, that process is, that's what life is made of. It might stretch you. It might be difficult. It doesn't have to be, though. I also want to say that the becoming process can be really fun. It might even be more enjoyable than the actual manifestation itself. But regardless of how it feels, remember, all the feelings are temporary. It will transform you. And you're going to look back and you're going to be so thankful for it. You'll be thankful that your manifestation didn't come a moment sooner because you wouldn't have been the person who was able to handle it if you had. I mean, gosh, I think about wow, what if my twins and then I had another miscarriage after that? Like, what if those babies, which I do believe the soul, at least one of the twins, is who I'm pregnant with now. So I don't feel like I lost anything. But what if I would be sitting here with let's see, how old would they be? 6-month-old twins right now. I don't think I'd be the mother that I'm going to be to this baby, to those twins. I would have had to learn lessons some other way because I didn't have the strength at the time to be that mother. And so I'm thankful that the manifestation didn't come a moment sooner than allowing me to become who I needed to be, because I wouldn't have been the person who'd be able to handle it if it had. And so don't you want to be able to handle your manifestation and actually enjoy it when it arrives? Don't you want to be that person? You don't go bake a cake and say okay, I'm going to bake a cake, but I really want to eat it right now. So I'm going to take it out of the oven 10 minutes, early, even though it needs to bake for 30 minutes. You don't want to eat this goopy cake. It wouldn't taste as good. You got to let it bake for what it needs to bake. Even if you really have a craving for cake, you're going to wait. You let it become that in which you want. And that's why becoming is so important. You literally won't manifest. The universe will not manifest and deliver your desires until you and manifested you are a perfect match. Now, I'm a child of the 90s. You know this. Back in my day, we had these projectors, okay? These projector screens and systems in our schools. And the teacher would, write on the projector and teach on class. And she would whip out this kind of clear plastic sheet, this little projector sheet. And she'd put it on the projector and she'd take out a projector marker. I don't know if they had a different name. It was just like a marker. And, she would write. And when she wrote, it would then project a big version of whatever she was writing on the whiteboard so that we could all see it. And if you were lucky, maybe you got to write on the projector sometimes too. And that was an exciting day. At least it was for me because it was really fun. But these clear plastic sheets, by the time I got into middle school, you could you could print on them. You could print something from the computer, like some word art or something on them. And then you could project that onto the, the whiteboard. God, I never thought that would feel old and outdated, but it feels really outdated to describe this process here now, right? And so basically, why I'm sharing this with you is because Current you, I want you to imagine current you as you are is on a clear projector sheet. And then there's another projector sheet that's manifested you. Okay. And essentially, how you will know when it's time that you're going to manifest your dreams is when you layer those two sheets, one on top of the other, and they completely match. There is zero difference between them, meaning that current you and manifested you are one. Once those two sheets perfectly match and align, then your 3D reality will match it too. Let's take our author example again, okay? Current you needs to have written a book because manifested you wrote a book. And so if you are a complete 100% match, that will have needed to happen. And then your outside reality will then match that too. People will buy your book. You will then be an author, okay? It's by shifting your identity that you begin to shift your reality. And that's how you transform your life. And that's why the becoming process is so essential. You're not just thinking differently. It's bigger than that. You're becoming manifested you, the version of you who trusts the universe, who holds that vision, who knows the reality of what you're creating, who welcomes your manifestations in with open arms. That's what it means to have a manifestation mindset. And actually, guys, it's also exactly why I created what I'm calling the Manifested Me Vault. And guys, if you have been listening to the show for a while now, I hope you're rejoicing with me because today, you know that today is a very big day. So if you're listening to this episode live, the day it comes out, Tuesday, May 27th, 2025, it is officially launch day on the long-awaited Manifested Me Vault. Now, this has been a really special project for me to create because I set out with a very clear intention, right? I wanted to create a real destination manifestation, like a place where you could consistently come back to access your manifestation mindset, to grow your manifestation mindset, to train that mindset, where you could rewire your beliefs, where you could quiet the noise of fear and doubt, and you can meet yourself, your manifested you, over and over and over again. You know, we talked about where is destination manifestation? Oh, is it to the north? Is it to the south? No, it's in your inner mind. And it's going to be in this online portal called the Manifested Me Vault because that's going to allow you to access where it exists in your inner mind. I'm going to guide you there, kind of like a tour guide, right? So I wanted there to be a hub. I wanted there to be a library, an online space where you had every single tool you could ever even fathom or need in order to do that. You listen to the podcast, you'll learn a whole lot about why and a lot about the how. I mean, that's as much as a podcast, any sort of podcast can really give you. But in the Manifested Me Vault, you'll be guided. I'm going to take you by the hand, or maybe I take you by the ear, okay? And you're going to be guided directly by me to actually do and live these processes that we learn and we teach about. Oh, it's phenomenal. I mean, I use the vault every single day. I truly do. It's the way I'm manifesting these days. I know I'm biased, but they're the best manifestation hypnotherapy audios that exist. In fact, there's not all that many that do exist out there. I'm really surprised that there aren't more hypnotherapists that are focusing in on manifestation, given that they're so tightly tied to one another. But even out of a few of those that do exist out there, I've tested them all. These are the most powerful. And the Manifested Me Vault is a streaming library of hypnotherapy audio sessions that are going to help you do the real inner work of manifesting, that becoming process. You're going to dedicate time to yourself to become who you need to be. And they aren't just relaxing recordings, although I will say they are incredibly soothing and very relaxing, but they're actually real tools that are going to help you shift your identity, strengthen your signal to help you stay in that airport holding that sign, okay? It's going to give you the power you need. I mean, gosh, I'm thinking I even did a recording this morning, and I was like, I don't know. I'm tired. I'm in my 3rd trimester. I'm pregnant. Like, I don't want to do the stuff I have planned today. And I was like, Brittany, tune back in. You need to hold your sign, girl. Hold your sign. And so I whipped out a recording. I listened to it. And by the end, I was like, yeah, let's go out there. Let's go back holding. Like, it gives you that boost you need to stay the course, to hold the vibration. And so if you're listening here today, I'm gonna share with you some exciting things. You can join the Manifested Me Vault for the absolute lowest price that it will ever be. And it's today only, okay? So it's just $70 a month or $147 to lock it in for an entire year when you use the code VIP1 at checkout. Now, I'm doing something kind of a little different with this launch, okay? The price is actually going to increase each day of the launch. So today it's $17 a month. Tomorrow it jumps to $22 a month. The next day, $27 a month, etc. So if the vault is calling to you, and let me tell you, it's probably been calling to you for quite a while now because I've been telling you all about it as I've developed it. Now is the moment to become a founding member. So head over to brittanyhoops.com/manifested-me-vault, or it's just easier to click the link in the show notes. But be sure to join today. Use that code VIP1. It expires at midnight today, Tuesday, May 27th. Use that code before the price increases, and I'm going to see you inside. Because I know I'm going to see you because Manifested You is waiting there for you. Your manifestation, it got off the plane. It's looking around. It's like, where is she? Where is he? I'm here. Manifested You is waiting for you here. And I believe with my whole heart that you are ready to become them. So I want you to enjoy your journey towards destination manifestation and the Manifested Me Vault. And I'll catch you in the next episode.
I don't know.